Hello, my name is Aryo. I'm a sound designer. I'm also the organizer for these events. And my goal today is to convince the indie devs in this room to try out audio middleware for your next game or your current game. A few limitations in the game engine that you're working with right now. You can't just press play on an audio system that you made and actively change the code as you're listening to it. So generally with Unity and Godot, from what I've seen, I mean, maybe you can set up a dummy scene with some parameters inside, but you have to actually run the game to hear the audio system as a whole as you're working on it. And audio middleware is a good way around that. You build the whole system in there, press play, and as you're listening to it, change all the code on the fly. Another issue is you are generally limited to triggering things on the frame rate. And there are sometimes a workaround with that, but point is you don't want to trigger audio on the frame rate sometimes. An example of this is, let's say you have a rhythm game and you need some kind of sound to trigger right on the beat. Not the frame that comes after the beat, but actually on the beat. So audio middleware uses the CPU to time these things, and that is very necessary for certain cases. And other than that, using middleware can just be a nice quality of life sometimes. Like I know a lot of programmers just, code is really nice, but there are some areas in audio where I want to show you some examples where it's just easier to do this in a separate piece of software. So here, this is a sci-fi car engine that I made. And it's comprised of 3 different layers. One of them is like a real life car engine sound. Another layer is just noise. It doesn't change at all. Another layer is some buzzing sound that increases in volume. And over here, as the RPM increases, it transitions from one of the real car sounds to another. So it has an idle sound and a slow engine sound. And being able to adjust the transitions as you're listening to it is invaluable. And Teo, if you're back there, could you press play on the video? So those are the 3 layers. I'm going to demonstrate each of them. This is just the noise layer. It doesn't change, it stays static. This one's the buzzing. And then the layer that uses real car sounds. This is actually a sequence. First it plays the startup sound, and then it actually starts the loop. And over here, I'm just showing that every single one of those layers, the fast, the medium, the slow engines, all have their own individual parameters that are adjusting. And doing those kinds of micromanagements in an audio in a game engine can be pretty rough. This is all of them all at once. Yeah, so that's one example. And this program is called Wise. This is the one that I usually prefer. But we also have Fmod. This one is much more visual in terms of it shows you a timeline and it shows you the sound waves, which for sound effects are usually not that necessary, in my opinion. Depends on your workflow. But for music, you definitely want something like this, which Wise also has something like this for music. But something useful for in this case that you can't just do with code is place triggers exactly where you want on the timeline. Like lining up something with the beat, being able to actually visually see where you are in the music, in this case can be faster than code, because the alternative is actually, counting the locations of the beat, and it can get kind of messy. Here, I wanted to show you an example in Fmod. I found this pretty cool example that someone made. They created a system where when the person goes underwater, whenever they're speaking, it creates bubbles that matches their speech. The way it works is it's just a looping bubble sound, but the bubble volume increases as the voice volume increases using a thing called sidechain. If you can press play back there and maybe reduce the volume a little bit.
Eller er jeg egentlig under vandet? Er jeg over vandet, eller er jeg under vandet? Er jeg over vandet, eller er jeg egentlig under vandet? Er jeg over vandet, eller er jeg under vandet? Er jeg over vandet, eller er jeg egentlig under vandet? Er jeg over vandet, eller er jeg under vandet?
So a good workflow for something like this is you would actually listen to this on repeat and drive yourself crazy. And as you actually listen to it, you will make these small changes constantly until you get the the volumes of everything just right, and the other effects just right, as opposed to running the game, hearing if it's right or not, closing it, changing the code, and doing that over and over again. And for those of you who are using Unreal, I suggest that you just try out meta sounds if you're on Unreal 5. I know Sergey, I don't know where he's sitting, he was telling me about the headaches he was getting implementing Fmod into Unreal 4. So luckily, you do have a pretty fully fledged audio engine in Unreal 5. My only two gripes with it are there's no timeline for like working with music. There's no way to visually view the sound waves. And my other gripe with it is working with audio channels. So you see those pink lines? Those are the audio connections. Over here, I have 3 sound effects on the left, and I'm cross-fading them right there. And in this case, it's just mono. There's no left or right. It's just mono, and so pretty simple. Move it over there, and you crossfade based on a float. But what if you were working with stereo? You have a left speaker and a right speaker. Well, there's no stereo version of the crossfade, so you have to have a left crossfade and a right crossfade, and this can get very messy and very annoying. And it's just annoying thing, and I really hope that they add a stereo connection to add to the quality of life. Because imagine if you were working with more than just stereo. What if you had to do this, but for surround sound? Gross. Maybe there's a workaround for this, but I haven't found it. I'm glad that I haven't had to work with surround sound yet. Some additional reasons of why you might want to use middleware. When you learn middleware and learn what features it comes with, you are incentivized to try and use those features and create more complex audio systems, and as a result, you'll become a better sound designer. Second reason, if you end up working with a sound designer, you'll already have a good understanding of their of the software that they use. So any communication you have to do regarding their tools will be much easier. And finally, I know some of you like to just make your own tools, and you don't like to use third-party software. So if you want to make your own audio engine, I still recommend that you try out Audio Middleware at least a little bit, see what it offers you, and then put those features into your audio engine and make your make your own audio engine fully fledged and become a better sound designer that way. If you're worried about price, if your budget is less than $500,000, it's free. And that's it. If any of you decide to try audio middleware and there's something that's intimidating you, maybe on the actual sound design side of things, because I know on the technical side of things you'll be fine, I'm always happy to offer any kind of help. Just message me. I always enjoy helping people out in becoming better sound designers. And I will take questions now. Yes. Or do we have another microphone somewhere? Unless you want to just yell.
I'll yell. Do you know if there's any good open source solutions for this sort of thing?
None. I mean, there might be, but I have spent a lot of time looking for some because, you know, one of the draws for using Godot is that it's open source, and I was thinking it would be so nice if I could use a nice open source audio middleware for it. There are some nice tools that they're adding to Godot. I know Lyric was showing them to me. None of them yet are really that fully featured yet, but you know, they're constantly adding new things, and because it's open source, they can add all of these features if people are programming them into the game engine. But yeah, as of now, none, unfortunately. Yes.
If you were forced to use Godot or some other engine that doesn't allow you to use these middleware specifically, and you had to choose middleware that's not as good, what are the must-have features?
Sorry, so if I had to use Godot or Unity, what are the must-haves and what? Sorry, could you repeat that?
If the middleware that you like wasn't available to you and you had to choose one that's not as good, what are the bare minimum must-have features for it?
Luckily, there aren't really that many other options other than Fmod and Wise, and both of them are fine. There is Elias, but that's music only. So the bare minimum is for an audio middleware to have also features for sound effects. You know, the stuff that I showed here, effects are must-haves. A nice way to actually master the things, a way to compress your audio based on, like, let's say you want your Android version to have lower quality audio to save on memory, stuff like that. Any other questions? Yes?
Make sure I word this right. So I imagine a lot of your target audience would be like solo engineers. Still two. Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, cool. I imagine the target for this would be a lot of solo engineers. You know, you just want to do the fun stuff. Having been on a sound team, it's usually one of the last things that's considered. Is there like a nice ratio or easy way to kind of visualize like what the time benefit is? Is it like you got to spend 3 hours like learning where the menus are, where the edit project settings are, and then from then on I'm saving like 10 times, you know, 10 times more efficient when it comes to like tuning audio? Is it like something I can learn and then once I know how to do it, I can repurpose it for other projects and it's pretty low maintenance?
Yeah, I don't think the learning curve is that bad. Especially, I think Fmod, the UI is more familiar for people coming from the audio side of things, and Wise, I think, is easier to grasp for programmers. And yeah, I'm gonna say, I don't know, random number, maybe it'll take you 2 hours to learn how to use Wise. And then from there, your quality of life skyrockets, and it's just so much easier to implement audio and work on it. Yeah, it's like if you're spending more than just the bare minimum amount of time on audio, and if you want to learn to do more than just triggering a one shot, and you want to make it a bit more randomized, make it a bit more nice and bespoke, I think for everyone, it's worth it. And that's it. That's time. Thank you.